Paulo, let's shift topics a little bit and talk about techniques. In your career, you've seen the focus on techniques change quite a bit over the years. Nowadays, some people would consider closed guard and butterfly guard old school moves. And do you find that those positions aren't working for you anymore?
No, I think it's always jiu-jitsu. There's always evolution, but at the same time, a lot of trends. You know, there are positions that evolved for sure, but they still work. You know, and I think going to be a point that the old stuff will be new again, because imagine like 10 years from now, and people forget about butterfly guard, right? And then the first guy that show up a butterfly guard, oh my God, it's a butterfly guard. What is this? You know what I mean? They have to go back to the books. So it's hard to predict the cycle of things, by being, I remember when the spider guard was new, didn't have it. I remember when nobody knew how to do half guard. And then those things start getting back in the game and added to it. And then it came deep half guard, and now they have De La Riva, which is something that was improved, but was already a long time there, that became improved again. Even the butterfly guard became improved when Marcelo Garcia started using the X guard. That's like a evolution of the butterfly guard.
Right.
So, not that the butterfly, actually you need a good butterfly guard to get to the X guard. So it's hard to discard one. But yeah, so you see the jiu-jitsu today looks different, and you see completely that the guys are my age, and they of course, I try to keep always updated, but you're gonna do what we like to do the most. I've been doing our whole life, but I believe every technique works if it's well and proper executed, and if you do it long enough, you can get a lot of people at it.
Do you ever feel that the young kids out there don't have the fundamental base that you were taught?
Oh yeah, I think we are getting further and further away from the source, okay? Because now in the generations that learn from this, for example, I can even tell like about self-defense, like who teaches self-defense? You know what I mean? I grew up with a lot of self-defense. Now people don't even care anymore, right? Which I think is wrong, because Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu above all is a self-defense, right? But yeah, I think if you go look for the end result, you forget about. It's like people are trying to now learn the top of the pyramid. Like for example, go to berimbolo. What was the evolution to get the berimbolo? I think that's important to understand. You know what I mean? Sometimes it came from classic guard, foot here, foot on the hip, and then all of a sudden it became a De La Riva, and then became so. It's good to understand all the principles of jiu-jitsu. That's one of the reasons I wrote the book about principles of jiu-jitsu. But at the same time, and I mentioned in the book that exactly what we talk about now. I think people are looking for the trends, but then I see a lot of people that don't even know how to escape the mount. They don't even know how to mount. They are great black belts today. They don't know how to mount. They're world champion many times. They don't stay more than 5 seconds on the mount. People should take them out. But they're really good at some other stuff. But to be a good teacher, you got to improve everything, And so you got to work on that, work all the fundamentals. And so I think there is a problem. Hopefully, some schools will keep on working on the fundamentals more,
You mentioned self-defense. Do you teach self-defense at your school?
Yeah, of course, definitely I do.
You mentioned that a lot of students don't enjoy training it. Do your students enjoy it?
Training self-defense? Man, some depends. Like if the person is a competitor and wants to be a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu competitor, he's in the world of competitions. He wants to learn the trends, you know. So it's a little bit of talking too. Say, look, you got to learn everything. It's kind of like you got to explain them, because you got to explain them where it came from, But people that want to do, there are some self-defense specific for fight, like street fights, you know.
Yeah.
People want to learn that.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes like, oh, knife and guns and all that thing, that might work, that might not work, you know. And there's evolution on that we didn't have, you know, like it's just some other, for example, I saw a guy from Philippines that's so good at knife that, you know, no jiu-jitsu self-defense, which the best self-defense for that is to run, you know, but it's good to know some because it happens somebody not so good, you know. The same like MMA, like, you know, we train to defend ourselves not against MMA guys, it's against everyone. MMA guys are the top 1%. Yeah. To find one MMA guy on the street, it's not so easy, you know. But yeah, and here in the United States, it is even different because here, like, you know, you don't have problems of having to defend yourself much, you know. In Brazil, you have to. Like, I grew up in Rio de Janeiro, you know, I had to defend myself, you know, like several times. Right. And jiu-jitsu self-defense played a big role, and that's what I try to explain to people. But I think it's important, and it's part, we teach self-defense, so martial arts, so not like a competition only, you know. Otherwise, we're going to become, I don't know, some only competition, you know, and doing things, but, and then other people are going to come and say, man, the guys don't teach martial art anymore. Right. It became something else.
You mentioned your book, Mastering the 21 Immutable Principles of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, and I'd like you to explain why you made this book. But first, when I look at the table of contents, it looks very interesting, and I can't wait to read it. Thank you for bringing it. But the first chapter is all about guard passing, and I'm just curious, why did you focus the first chapter on guard passing?
Well, first is this. It wasn't going to be the first chapter. My first chapter, the original first chapter, would be the chess analogy. But then, talking with some of my friends at black belts, said, man, that's too deep to get started. You know, so like, if I already started, it's like throw some chess and then like, let's go with something that people can resonate with. I see. You know, so I said, okay, let's go with the guard pass. Because in my opinion, we talk about 7 principles. We just talk about, you know, I call the 7 Ps, you know. So we talk about positioning, pressure, posture, you know, precision, proper balance. So those are the fundamentals to have a good guard pass. Then the technique you're gonna use is up to you. Right. But I see a lot of people that they go past the guard, they didn't use their weight. You know what I mean? Like, if you're on top, you have to use a weight. Yeah. That's what you're on top for. Right. You know? And so those for me is the fundamentals. Like, you gotta wear your partner out, you know, like, I think jiu-jitsu as a marathon. I don't think jiu-jitsu, for more that I like to compete, for me jiu-jitsu, I was raised by George to understand jiu-jitsu for me is a self-defense that the last one standing is the champion. Okay, so for me, jiu-jitsu is a battle of energy. You know, whoever gets tired first is the loser. You know, the guy is super tired, he lost. Yeah. You know, that's so. For me, my goal is to do what? Suck the energy from the guy and conserve mine. So what can we do to actually make that happen? It's not going to be running around, because then they're going to suck my energy. I can do that for 10 minutes, 5 minutes, but do that for an hour. You know, maybe some people can do that. When I was in my 20s, I could, but now at 41, I can't. Now I have to be precise and methodic. Right.
You know, when I look in this book, I hardly see any pictures of techniques. How am I going to learn jiu-jitsu from this book, Paulo?
Well, like I said, you're going to learn the principles. You know, so we talk about the positioning of, you know, what, because I try to narrow down for simple things, you know, like this book came from teaching, mostly privates, you know, because I was answering questions and I was, man, and I like analogies, you know. So for me, analogy, I'm a visual guy. That's, you know, guy that I like to see. If you talk to me and say, oh, by that position, they put the hand in it, say, stop it, go here and show me the position, you know, because if you just move your hands and saying words, for me, I don't grasp the idea. So I see analogies all the time, you know, and I try to make analogies that make it easier for people to understand. There's one, for example, that called the leak in the bucket. So I say, what? Leak in the bucket. So the idea is this. When you're in a situation, in any position in jiu-jitsu, in any technique, imagine you put me in your guard. And your guard has a lot of hooks and leverages on me, if you have your guard well set, okay? But there will be one of the leverages that are the most important one. So the analogy is this. If I have a roof, a ceiling full of leaks, in which leak you're gonna put your bucket first?
The biggest one.
The biggest one. Okay, so in my opinion, when I learn the analogy, now when I'm going to any situation, I try to study what's the biggest leverage. So if the foot on the hip is the biggest leverage, that's the one I have to get rid first. You know what I mean? So, and then you dismingle like the guard by putting buckets, you know, which the analogy is just getting rid of the leverage. You know, some people try to break the sleeve, but that's not the leverage. The leverage is maybe a foot on the hip or maybe a hook behind the leg, you know. So a good way to see that is get a partner and tell them to take stuff and put stuff. Say, put that foot, oh, the foot's good. Take that foot, oh, the foot, you know what I mean? So it's a very simple way to understand. With this principle, you can understand any technique. Just like think about that, go to the gym, get a technique, and dissect the technique until you get it.
Deal with the biggest problem first.
Yeah, you know, and that for me was when I realized that was like a aha moment. Oh yeah, okay, deal with the biggest problem first for any situation, because everything has one thing that's the most important thing, you know, can be the guy being sideways. You know what I mean? It can be a shin in front of your chest. It can be the grip or the foot position. So that's the idea of this part. So the book talks a lot about things like that, you know.
Cool.
And this, you know, if you go there, it's a long story, but you gotta read it.
Okay, I look forward to. If people are interested in checking this book out, where can they find it?
Amazon. Okay. Amazon.com and go for Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu books. I'm probably going to be the first or the second there. Saulo is probably the first one, Saulo's book, and I'm the second one.
Right.
Last time I checked, so.
Very good.
2 great books.
Right, for sure. Paulo, before the show, we were talking a little bit about yoga, and I understand that you had a yoga class at your academy for a while. And, you know, in most academies, there are places full of guys, and we're working really hard, beating our bodies up all day long. Yoga studios, on the other hand, are filled mostly with women, in a very different environment in both places. And I've seen many jiu-jitsu academies try to get yoga programs in, but they never seem to work. What's your experience with yoga, and is there anything else you do to complement the abuse that you put on your body during jiu-jitsu?
Yeah, I think yoga is a good way to balance, you know. Jiu-jitsu is balanced too, but like you said, takes a toll on your body, you know. And when you do cross training, and some things you will do also going to take a toll on your body as well. You know, like, you know, if you go to the gym and have to lift weights and do explosive moves, you know, to get ready to be on top of the top. So I think is a way of relaxation, but at the same time, you work in your body, work your flexibility, you work your mind above all. If you get a good yoga, then you're going to work your breathing, which for me, back to the energy fight again. Without a good breathing, you cannot go longer, right? Mm-hmm. So if you're not learning how to breathe properly in your jiu-jitsu school, because nobody's talking to you about that, go look for another source and bring that to jiu-jitsu. That's how I learned it originally. One of the ways I learned a lot from Alvaro Romano, you know. He's like, I know him since I'm 17 years old, and he became one of my mentors, you know. And he embraced me. He taught a lot of gymnastica natural back then, when it was a long time ago, like, you know, I was 17, you know. And the breathing part I learned from him, and I watched Hickson doing the breathing. George also talked about it. So some yoga is gonna give you that. Some other yogas are gonna give you more the flexibility part. The only catching thing is this: when you're gonna compete, you don't want to be too relaxed. You know what I mean? In yoga, for competition, is not the best thing to do. I think yoga is good as maintenance. Competition, you got to stop that and do things that are going to give you more speed, going to give you more power, you know, because to compete, you got to have flexibility, power, strength, and speed. If you have this combination, you know, so you got to work on things that are going to give you that to be on top of the top. But yoga is a good maintenance because, you know, you're going to work on your joints, you know, and as all of us know, joints take a big toll in jiu-jitsu, you know, always being stretched, always being put to test, you know. So that works for me. Ginástica natural, I think, is like amazing training. Every time I was doing that consistently, I was in the top of the top because you're not so stiff, you're agile, you're flexible, you know. So that's, for me, is the best jiu-jitsu training. Weights is good if you want to, you know, you need it today because those guys are super strong, you know. Yeah. But you got to be careful not to injure yourself doing that and not go too far away from the specific things you need. But I don't know if I answered your question. I mean,
yeah, for sure. No, this is fascinating.
Going in circles.
Fascinating. Yeah.
But yeah, so those are the things, like prepare yourself. But you know, why I say jiu-jitsu is also balanced, because I think the original idea of jiu-jitsu is to balance the person, right? So same as yoga. So if you're too like hyper, you know, how many times you see hyper guys starting to, you know, what jiu-jitsu does to those guys with time? They calm them down, you know? And if you're too calm, you gotta go a little bit faster. You cannot be too calm.
It's an interesting point.
You know what I mean? We have to find a happy middle, you know? And another day, this guy came to me, but you know, I get hurt all the time, and because I train, and I'm like this, man. That's one. You know, I can't train right now. So that's the reason you should be training, because, you know, how are we gonna balance you back to, you know, stop being like that. You know, like you have to run away from that. Now you have to embrace it and try to relax, because eventually it will happen. You know, like might take a long time, but you know, you're walking toward achieving that, and you know, it depends how focused you are and conscious about this, you know. But that's what I say. And then yoga is also balances you, so that helps you be balanced, you know. So it's a good complement to each other.
Absolutely. So now I'd like you to brag a little bit, and I'm going to guide you to that. But when you hear, after you do a seminar or a private lesson or a class, what are the most common compliments that you hear the students saying about you?
I think, well, one is you know, we talk about things, you know, like, and I don't know, I think a little bit of the idea, because I'm a student, you know, but I was studying jiu-jitsu my whole life, and I think at a point I became a good student, and I also know how to pass, you know what I mean? I try to break down to the simplest as I can break down, you know what I mean? And I try to, like, analogy is one of those things, but try to explain as the best as I can and take my time and try to understand the person and see what they need, you know, to make them what they want to become. That's one thing. About my jiu-jitsu game, lately people talk about like feel heavy. That's, for me, is one of the best compliments, you know. You know, maybe if you're a heavy guy, you don't feel that good, but I'm alive and people tell like I feel heavy, that's a great compliment for me, you know. And I think, okay, I'm doing something right, because back again, for me, passing the guard is using your weight, and any control is a lot to do with weight distribution. So those are the two, you know, that I've been getting more often.
Okay. Well, before we move on to the technique portion, I'd just like to ask you one more thing, and that is, let's pretend that behind that camera is the youth of jiu-jitsu. What words of encouragement or guidance would you like to give them?
Well, first is you are doing the right thing by training jiu-jitsu, you know? No doubt is the best martial art in the world, you know? And so you're in the right place. You could be doing something else right now. But now, it depends on what goal you have. You know, if you really want to become a champion jiu-jitsu, the best jiu-jitsu fighter you can possibly be, you know, make sure you find a good instructor, good mentor. Also, try to learn from other people's experience, you know. And, you know, guys like old school like me, you know, but we've been watching things for a long time. And then when you say a couple of things that are more important than other things, you guys should really consider that, because it's a point of view of someone that's been doing for a long time. And, you know, have a lot of discipline and training hard, you know. Just a beautiful sport. And, you know, and you guys also have in your hands the chance to develop the sport even more, because every new guy has a responsibility to keep carrying the torch. So that's what I have to say.
Beautiful words, Paulo. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
So Paulo, during the interview we were talking about old school jiu-jitsu beating the new style of jiu-jitsu, more open guard stuff. Can you show me some of the stuff that you've been working on?
Yeah, of course. Let's do it. So let's go for the old school. So what happened here is this. First, I'm trying to get this position here, okay? Shin really close to the guy's leg, my foot here. And from here today, there's a lot of, you know, there's the De La Riva guard, you know, here the spider guard, okay? But if I shove this one, foot here, the spider guard, it's not gonna be a problem. So that's like the beginning of something. But people used to be in this position a lot, and the guys that are doing the bottom, they're used to fight here. You know, so if I go here, if the shin is sliced here, they're gonna do something, they're gonna come back this way. Sometimes you mark here, they're gonna find a way to go for De La Riva from here, if you're not completely blocking this leg. So lately I'm using this, I'm working in this leg, grabbing here, and switch the angle a little bit, and using this hand here, thumb inside, here, okay? And keep my weight on the guy, this leg not too close, otherwise I gotta go here, and keep a 45-degree angle. So what happened now is, I'm focused on this leg more, okay? So this leg is gonna be the center of most of his leverage, okay? He's gonna hook here, sometimes he's gonna try to get his leg back and push here, okay? So I sit on this leg here, and my goal first is wear this leg out. If I feel that the leg is giving up, I'm gonna move my hip up and boom, sit. My knee goes straight to the ground, I plant here, and most important is the angle of my elbow around his ribs, okay? So I gotta keep an angle, so I cannot sit on the ground completely, otherwise the guy push me back. And if I go too much, I lose. So I gotta be here and here. Now, there are options. I can walk behind and go back here. But look, move over there. Where side do you think about going? And that's exactly where I'm going. Okay? Option 2. Is going over. Okay, now I'm like a wet blanket over my partner. So my goal here is, what I like to do is bring my knee right here. Okay, now is use this pressure here and start to shift his body to the other side. And then I start going. And then right here, I'm up. Okay, pleasant?
No.
So yeah, so that's going to be the theory of like trying to make it very uncomfortable for your partner in the bottom. It's not something that I look to go into really fast. It's more, once I get there, it's a lot of grinding and balancing and getting inch by inch, see how I'm out inch by inch. Okay? The other technique that I'm doing from there is so I go here, I notice that the guy start going here, the guy start like, he starts switch for here.
you know? So they get out of this angle, because this angle here, there's no de la riva anymore. See, the guy tried de la riva, I just keep going here. So when I start keep going here, he switch to this side. Okay, you go to the reverse de la riva, right? So the idea, hold on, move your head back. The idea is get him in the middle. So you gotta time your partner. So by the time you go in the middle, go boom. See, the elbow is gonna go down here, and my head is gonna be right above his head. And my body is gonna go just straight down here. That's gonna block him from going deep there. By the time you get this point, he's not happy. Okay, now what happened is like he lost the leverage. He can have a kick because it's stretched out. Now I'm gonna have to pass this guard. I'm gonna do a kind of shin slide. I'm gonna move my knee forward and then side. So I go here, I push this one down. Now this knee goes here and then to the side. And then I keep going here until my chest connect to his chest. And then I can work on this other hand later, or I just can let go here and go to the side control. Okay, so those two, a combination I've been working lately, and it's working very well, you know. For me, doing training, I'm still like, you know, taking that to the competition. Where we talk about here, sometimes we're not there much in competition to actually practice technique in my age in the Master 3. But I think on the Jiu-Jitsu, the young Jiu-Jitsu style that's coming over, that's a good technique.
Absolutely. And you know, in your book, you mentioned the 7 P's of guard passing, yeah. 2 of them being persistence and patience. And I can see in that position, you can wait, and you know, my legs are wearing out as I'm supporting all your weight.
Exactly. Yeah, I think putting yourself in situations that your partner is in an uncomfortable position is the key, right. You know? So those two, so you can do many different ways, the same technique I just explained now, but the way I was doing it was actually making slightly more uncomfortable, you know?
Yes, it was.
And, you know, he's being under a lot of guys passing too, and I'm not a heavy guy, so imagine as a heavy guy doing this, so it'd be a good technique.
Awesome. Thank you so much for sharing, Paulo.
Thank you.
If people want to find you online, where can they find you?
My last name is Guillobel, BudoVideos.com. Okay?
All right, guys. Hope those moves helped you out. I thought they were amazing. Thanks again, Paulo. We'll see you guys next time on This Week in BJJ.